Toastmaster Bob Hooey. Distinguished Toastmaster Bob Hooey is not only a distinguished Toastmaster, he is an accredited speaker, and he has been a past Region 4 advisor. So you can tell that Bob has had a great deal of experience in leadership roles and speaking roles. When I read Bob's introduction the first time he sent it to me, I saw that it said he hassled his teams. And I wondered if he was doing a play on words. And I learned that he was. I think the computer changed it from has led several teams to he's hassled several teams. As we know, leadership is a great component of our Toastmasters, but communication is why most of us join Toastmasters. Today, Bob Hooey is going to share with us his knowledge about celebrating leadership. Celebrating leadership, distinguished Toastmaster Bob Hooey.
All right. Thank you very much, Margaret. And hi, everybody. Glad to be with you. It's my distinct pleasure and privilege to share a few words, maybe a little wisdom. I actually did a video. I just got back from Athens last Saturday. This time last Saturday, I was zonking big time because we drove into the driveway at 3:30 in the morning after spending 28 hours being up and traveling and so forth. But I actually did a video in front of the Parthenon on the Acropolis. And I said, in this location, Aristotle and Plato and Socrates shared their wisdom. And if you allow me, now Bob Hooey. And I thought, maybe that's a little presumptuous, but, each of us have wisdom because we've lived and we've learned, and we take what we've learned and we pass it on. And that's really the essence of what I want to share with you today is you have a lot of wisdom within each of you and within your club. Thank you, Brad, for sharing some of the history of your club, and so that we know how many people have contributed and maybe where. Because I think too often we forget that because we're living in now and we don't look back and we don't realize that people have gotten us there. I know, like for me, for example, I got the accredited speaker a long time ago now. And I told somebody, I said, it's interesting. Everybody got excited when I walked across the stage in Palm Desert. And I said, I may have walked across that stage by myself, but I didn't get to that stage by myself. There were a lot of people who gave me advice and support and kicked my butt and maybe provided leadership in the way that I was growing so that I would continue getting in that direction. And you had to share that with them because very often we don't succeed in isolation. We succeed when we work with other people. And that's the essence of what leadership is about, is working with other people to accomplish shared goals or causes that are important, things that we really want to see happen. My friend Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I think as you get older, and I'm definitely getting older, I'm thinking back and revisiting some of the decisions that I've made in my life. And thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing some of your history, because again, we need to look back and say, where was I? Where am I now? What have I learned? And what have I grown through as I got there? Because that's part of what we share. That's the wisdom that we have that we can imbibe in the people around us. Now, we were talking about celebrating leaders and talking maybe outside of Toastmasters just a bit. And I sat down this morning and I jotted down a few, some famous leaders, political leaders like Obama or Kennedy or Lincoln or Gandhi or Churchill or, Margaret Thatcher or Franklin Roosevelt, those kinds of things, Lester Pearson, John A. Macdonald in Canada, or other leaders who have done things in life like Martin Luther King. Or Alexander the Great, because I was just there, or Julius Caesar, or people in business who have provided leadership and built things that we now enjoy. Walt Disney, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison. People who have done things for us that we we take for granted, but have actually built the world in which we inhabit. People with art. I was just on a 7-day cruise when I was in Athens before I had a chance to speak for District 109 on the 15th and 16th, those 2 evenings. And as is usual, I don't know if that's bad or good, but I've got an addiction now for art. I'm going to actually have to build a bigger house or build an addition because I'm running out of wall space, but I bought some more art. But, people like Michelangelo or Da Vinci, who were at their time period leaders in their own area, and people emulated them and they watched them and said, oh, someday I want to be as good as Michelangelo, or someday I'd love to be as accomplished as Leonardo da Vinci, or somebody who just lived her life and made an impact, somebody like Mother Teresa. How many people can you think of that are leaders that have impacted your life? How many people can you think of that have actually done something that you now look at and go, well, I've got the benefit of that. I may not have realized that they did that, but I've got the benefit of their life and their contributions and what they've done. Like for me, I joined Toastmasters. It'll be 32 years next April. I came to Toastmasters with an idea and a dream that I wanted to be a professional speaker and travel the world and speak around the world. 65 countries and 6 continents as of a week ago. And like I say, I had the opportunity of speaking for District 109 on Tuesday evening on the 15th, and Wednesday evening on the 16th. And the Tuesday evening, I talked about what Toastmasters can do for you, because it was a corporate event and they were challenged to invite people to come, and we wanted to talk about what you could do in Toastmasters that would help your career or maybe help your company, and people did. And then Wednesday night I did a shorter version of Speaking for Success, which I've had the fun pleasure of doing all around the world. And this is where you continue learning. For example, when I showed up on Tuesday night, I looked at the agenda. It was good. Break. I had 30 minutes and it was good. I blocked it out and did that. I looked at on the back of it, had the agenda for Wednesday night. I looked at it and said, Bob Hooey, 45 minutes. And I thought, I thought we had arranged for 90 minutes because I was going to do it as an in-person workshop to actually engage people and do whatever. And I thought, okay, I can do this. I'm a Toastmaster. I can cut this back. And I went back to the hotel that evening and took out my printout of all my PowerPoints, which is something I do when I'm traveling, because you never know if maybe the computer messes up or something doesn't work. You've got something to use as a guideline. And I crossed out things and took a look and said, okay, how do I cut this thing in half? And fortunately for me, the hotel had a computer that I could use in their guest services, and it happened to have PowerPoint on it. So it was very easy for me to go in and go delete, and take out a whole bunch of slides and then save it again so that I could do that. But I thought, let me build on this. And this was just a visual example. I shared that story in Athens on Wednesday night. And I said, and I held up the schematics of all of the PowerPoint. And I said, sometimes you have to do things. And I thought, how do I cut your presentation in half? And I ripped it in half and threw it on the table. And I watched their faces going, holy crap, what is this guy doing? But you have to do something to catch your attention. And that's really what it is. So I have had the pleasure of being a leader now for a long time. As I said, I came to Toastmasters with a very specific dream in mind. It wasn't to be a leader. In fact, I reluctantly accepted getting leadership of my club and moving into things in that area. And then after a while, you get addicted. But the interesting thing about it is I now travel the world, or I'm getting back to traveling the world. And a lot of what I do, I'm working with leaders and their teams in corporations and organizations in a lot of different places, sharing leadership skills with them and helping them to develop their teams. That came from what I learned in Toastmasters, where I didn't want to be a leader. I didn't come for that reason, but I moved into it. I morphed into it because people nudged me. I mean, part of it was an expectation. I joined a club that had 7 members. I was the 8th, so that we didn't die. In that particular year, we we moved that club to 23. And then I moved into doing area and so forth, and carried some of that on. Part of what happened as I moved into leadership, I found out that one, I was good at it and I liked it because I love to see people grow. I love to see people grow. And that is still one of the things that pushes me now, as it has throughout the last 32 years. So I want to share with you a couple of things. I'm going to share one thing with you that's really kind of fun in terms of working with people and working with leaders. Maybe you see this book. I thought of this as we were getting. This is one of the books that I did. I've written a few books on leadership. This particular book got into the hands of Pope Francis in 2019. How do I know that? Because I delivered it to the post office in the Vatican, and they said they would take it over to where he lived, because he lives in a place within the Vatican, but not in the Papal Palace, because that's his choice. And I thought nothing more of it until about a month and a half later. I got a letter from one of his assistants saying something to the effect of, the Holy Father would like to thank you very kindly for your gift of the book and your note, and he's going to pray for you. I thought that's really cool. So you never know where you start as a Toastmaster, where your influence is going to extend to connect with other people. And you can take what you're doing and build on it. That's a challenge. Just as you've done in BLT in terms of providing so many people that have moved into leadership in 42 and 99 and around the region. You've provided that because you've created the foundation and the critical mass where people come together and learn, and then take that leadership out into the real world. That's a secret of what we do. That's a secret. Let me share with you a few points that I just wrote down some notes here this morning as I was waiting before I checked and found out that I was an hour out in my time. This is the fun part, is that in the summer, Saskatchewan and Alberta are on the same time. I thought it was the other way around. So I'm just double checking because that's my style. And I looked at it and thought, oh my goodness, the meeting starts in 5 minutes. Good thing I'm ready, because I was up at 7:30 my time. But in Legacy of Leadership, I share a few things on leadership. One of which is leaders are not born. I mean, I'm sorry, but I've yet to hear anybody saying, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, you got a 6-pound, 8-ounce leader," versus a boy or a girl or whatever. People are born. Leaders are made. Leaders are nudged and nurtured and made. That's the one thing that we do inadvertently in Toastmasters. We provide that environment where people can hone their leadership skills, should they want to, and become better leaders, become more dynamic, become more involved in their community, and take what they're doing and move it out into the real world. And so many people have done that. They've taken the skills that we teach them and into the real world and been very successful. Because one, we've taught them to think. We've taught them to organize their thoughts. We've taught them how to share their thoughts. And we've taught them how to listen. A real skill that we have given our members is to listen when we're in a meeting and somebody is talking. I make my living working with, as I said, with executives and leaders. And very often what I will do is I'll listen as we're talking. And I'll say something like, now you may have already thought of this, but have you ever considered, and I'll share something. And I'll watch their eyes go, boom, because once in a while, I see something that to me is so obvious that they've missed because they're so too close to it. And that makes me a very valuable asset to clients who hire me to come in and work with their teams, because I look at it with fresh eyes. I look at it from a different perspective of somebody who's in the building, in the program, involved in the business. And, we have blind spots. We have intentional and unintentional blind spots because that happens. So as we get better at what we're doing, we could become better leaders. So leaders are not born. They're made, and we encourage and we nurture, and we can do that with each other. We can push each other to be better as leaders. Now, one of the other things of being a leader is they're open to change. Change is very often thrust upon us. Look at what happened in Toastmasters with the pandemic. Toastmasters for a long time was very adamant that we're not going to do online training. It's just not, it's going to be in person or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And instantly had to change when the pandemic hit and the world got shut down. So they're open to change. Now, it was forced on them, but some of that is now really good. And there are some clubs, as Bev was saying, that are struggling. And there's clubs that are just amazingly doing well, like Dynamic Speaking in Lethbridge. At one time, I think had 52 members from 5 different countries because they're online, and that's what they're doing. And they've used that tool as a way to reach out and provide leadership to other people's lives. So they're open to change. Leaders tend to be creative, because how many of you understand that you don't always have all the time and the money and the personnel that you need to get everything done? If you're in Toastmaster leadership, that's for sure the truth. And Bev will tell you that, and Catherine can probably tell you that, because she works with so many of our leaders, that very often we don't have those resources. So we have to get creative. We have to say, what can I do with what I have in the time that I have to get it done? That's leadership. That's the real essence of leadership, is saying, I can do something about this. Or like I used to say, and very often say, I can do that. I'm a Toastmaster. Because I'd come to Toastmasters late in life, came through a divorce, decided to put my life back together, and Toastmasters became part of that component. And in a very short period of time, I had gotten my CTM, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, if I can do this, what else can I do? So I decided to go back into the design business that I'd been in for many years, and I had been away for 10 years. And I challenged the exam because I had qualified way back when. I challenged the exam, and I got it in the first hit and became a certified kitchen designer, one of 10 in BC and about 20 in Canada. Most people don't pass it the first time. It's a 2-part exam. Most people have to rewrite at least one portion. I got it in both because Toastmasters taught me how to discipline myself, how to think, how to study, how to focus. And I said to myself, I can do this. And I did. That came from Toastmasters. One of the other things that I've learned from working for so many leaders over the years is leaders make mistakes. We are real people. You know, like I said, if you cut me, will I not bleed? Yes, that's the whole point. We're real people with real problems and real struggles and real strengths and real successes and real celebrations. That's who we are. But we make mistakes. The difference are the leaders are the ones that say, okay, I made a mistake. What did I learn from that mistake? And they take that lesson forward. And in some cases, they'll actually share that lesson with other people so that other people won't make that same mistake. I would much rather have people follow my successes than my failures. And so I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've learned a lot from those mistakes. And over the last 25 years, I've made a lot of money over talking about the mistakes that I made and the lessons that I made from going through those mistakes. Another point on leadership is leaders are very often not revealed in the easy times within an organization. The real leaders show up when things are tough. They're forged in the heat of reality. They're molded on the anvil of adversity with the hammers of life as it bangs on us. That's where the real leaders show up. When things go wrong, that's where you want somebody who's a leader to step in and say, okay, calm down. We'll make it through this. Here's where we need to go. That's when the leaders step up. And that's what we need. A couple of other points real quickly. A lot of the leaders that I've met over the years are readers. They're looking to absorb information and get material into their lives and their brains that they can then use to lead their teams. So they're open to reading from various areas and bringing knowledge in that they can do. Bottom line in being a leader is they really are the foundation for shared success with any organization, whether it's Toastmasters or the real world or your business or your organization. But I'm going to share with you one point that I think is maybe the most important point about celebrating leadership. Look in the mirror See who you see in the morning. Maybe if you're like me, you take a shower before you look in the mirror, because otherwise you want to sneak up on it. And take a look at the person and say to you, you're the leader in my life. Where are you going to lead me today? Where are you going to lead me as I move forward in my life? Where are you going to lead me to greater success, greater learning, and more involvement in helping other people? That's the real essence of leadership, is you. And you do that, you'll make BLT successful for another 25 years and take that into the real world. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you today.
Thank you so much, Bob, for that wonderful, inspiring